He was my boyfriend until I saw this story. The champagne was Dom Perignon, of course. Mark wouldn't have it any other way. 2 years. 2 years of perfectly curated dinners, weekend getaways to Napa, and Sunday morning brunches that looked straight out of a magazine. We were celebrating at that new place downtown, the one with the impossible to get reservations and the even more impossible to pronounce dishes. I looked across the table at him. Handsome, successful, charming. Mark was everything I'd ever thought I wanted. He was wearing that tailored suit, the one that made his shoulders look impossibly broad, and his eyes, usually the color of warm honey, sparkled under the dim restaurant lights. He raised his glass. To us, Sarah. To many more years of happiness. I smiled, a little too wide, maybe. To us, I echoed, clinking my glass against his. But even as I smiled, a tiny knot of unease tightened in my stomach. It wasn't anything I could put my finger on, just a subtle feeling, like a dissonant chord in a beautiful melody. Maybe it was the pressure of living up to the picture-perfect image we presented to the world. Or maybe it was something else entirely. After dinner, we walked back to our apartment, hand in hand, the city lights blurring around us. He unlocked the door, and I headed straight for the bedroom to change into something more comfortable. That's when I saw it. His phone was lying on the bedside table, face up. The screen was dark, but the notification banner was clear as day. Emily drinks after work on Friday? My heart skipped a beat, then started hammering against my ribs. Emily freaking Carter. She worked in Mark's department. Beautiful, ambitious, intimidatingly smart. Every time we'd been at a company event together, I'd felt a prickle of something. Jealousy? Insecurity? Whatever it wasn't good. I knew I shouldn't, but I picked up his phone. My fingers trembled as I entered his passcode. My birthday, of course, and opened the message. The text was simple, innocuous, almost. But the winky face at the end? It felt like a punch to the gut. I scrolled through the rest of the conversation. It was mostly work-related, project updates, meeting reminders, but there were a few other things that caught my eye. A late-night email exchange about a difficult client that somehow morphed into a discussion about favorite books. A shared article about a new art exhibit, with the comment, "We should check this out sometime." Small things seemingly harmless, but they painted a picture. A picture of a connection, a flirtation, something that went beyond a professional relationship. I closed the app and put the phone back exactly where I found it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I felt sick to my stomach. I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. It's nothing, I told myself, staring at my reflection in the mirror. You're overreacting. It's just a text message, but the feeling wouldn't go away. The knot in my stomach tightened, and the dissonance in the melody grew louder. I decided to talk to Chloe, my best friend. She was a lawyer, sharp and perceptive, and she always had a way of cutting through the bullshit. Drinks after work? Chloe repeated, sipping her latte. We were at our usual coffee shop, the one on the corner of my block. That could mean anything, Sarah. Maybe they're just colleagues grabbing a beer after a long week. I know, I said, picking at a loose thread on my jeans. But it's Emily, and the winky face, and the way Mark acts around her? Chloe raised an eyebrow. How does he act around her? I don't know exactly, I said, frustrated. Just different. More attentive, more engaged. He listens to her when she talks about her projects, even though they're completely unrelated to his field. He remembers details about her life that he never seems to remember about mine. Chloe reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Okay, look, I'm not saying you're wrong, but you need more than a text message and a feeling to accuse him of anything. Talk to him, Sarah. Tell him how you're feeling. See what he says. What if I'm wrong, I asked. What if I'm just being paranoid and insecure? Chloe sighed. Then you'll know you're being paranoid and insecure, and you can deal with it. But you can't let this eat you up inside. You deserve to know the truth, one way or another. I knew she was right, but the thought of confronting Mark filled me with dread. What if I was wrong? What if I ruined everything over nothing? The next few days were torture. I found myself watching Mark like a hawk, analyzing every word he said, every gesture he made. He seemed oblivious to my scrutiny. He was still attentive, still affectionate, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. He started working late more often. Big project, he'd say, kissing me on the forehead before heading out the door. Gotta impress the clients. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the doubt was gnawing at me, eating away at my trust, at my sanity. One evening, I decided to surprise him at his office. I packed him a sandwich, his favorite, turkey and Swiss on rye, and headed downtown. The lobby of his building was sleek and modern, all glass and steel. I took the elevator to his floor and walked towards his office. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear voices inside. I just don't know how much longer I can keep doing this, a woman's voice said. It was Emily. I froze, my hand hovering over the door. I know, Mark said, his voice low and soothing. It's not ideal, but we're almost there. Just a little longer. I couldn't hear the rest. I turned and ran, the sandwich falling to the floor, the contents spilling out in a messy heap. I didn't go home that night. I went to Chloe's apartment and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Okay, that's it, Chloe said, handing me a glass of wine. You're confronting him. Tonight. I hesitated. I don't know, Chloe. What if I misunderstood? What if they were talking about something else entirely? Sarah, Chloe said, her voice firm. You heard what you heard. He's lying to you. You deserve to know the truth. And you deserve better than that. I took a deep breath. She was right. I did. I went home and waited for Mark to arrive. He walked in, tired but smiling. Hey, babe, he said, reaching for a kiss. I stepped back. We need to talk, I said, my voice trembling. He frowned. What's wrong? I went to your office tonight, I said, my voice getting stronger. I heard you talking to Emily. His face paled. What? What are you talking about? Don't lie to me, Mark, I said, my eyes filling with tears. I heard you. You said you didn't know how much longer you could keep doing this. What were you talking about? He looked away, his jaw tight. He opened his mouth to say something, then closed it again. Mark, I said, pleading. Please, just tell me the truth. He finally met my gaze. Okay, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Okay, you're right. There's something going on. My heart sank. What is it? I asked, dreading the answer. He hesitated, then blurted it out. I'm seeing Emily. We've been seeing each other for a few months. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Everything around me seemed to blur. A few months? I repeated, my voice hollow. A few months? And you were celebrating our anniversary last night? You were telling me you loved me? He looked down, ashamed. I do love you, Sarah, he said. I do. But I don't know. Emily, she understands me. She gets me in a way that you don't. I stared at him, disbelief warring with anger. So what? You're saying this is my fault? That I wasn't good enough for you? No, that's not what I'm saying, he said, reaching for me. Please, Sarah, let me explain. I flinched away from his touch. Explain what, Mark? Explain how you lied to me? How you betrayed me? How you made me feel like I was going crazy for even suspecting something? I didn't want to hurt you, he said, his voice pleading. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, didn't it? I said, my voice rising. You made a choice, Mark. You chose her over me. You chose to lie to me, to cheat on me, to break my heart. Tears streamed down my face. I felt a rage building inside me, a rage I didn't know I was capable of. Get out, I said, my voice shaking. Get out of my apartment. Get out of my life. He looked at me, stunned. Sarah, please, he said. Don't do this. We can work through this. I promise. There's nothing to work through, Mark, I said, my voice hard. It's over. Get out. He stood there for a moment, his eyes filled with regret. Then he turned and walked out the door. I stood there for a long time, staring at the closed door, with the silence in the apartment deafening. I sank to the floor, sobbing. The next few weeks were a blur. I moved out of our apartment, found a small place of my own. I called my family, told them what happened. They were supportive, angry on my behalf. Chloe was my rock, helping me with everything, from finding a new apartment to dealing with the legal stuff. Mark called, texted, emailed. He begged for forgiveness, promised to change, said he made a mistake. I ignored him. I started therapy. It helped. I started to understand why I had stayed in a relationship that wasn't making me happy, why I had ignored the red flags, why I'd let my insecurities get the better of me. One day, I was at my usual coffee shop. The barista, a young woman with bright pink hair, smiled at me. You seem different, she said. Happier. I smiled back. I am, I said. I'm finally free. A few months later, I ran into Mark at a mutual friend's wedding. He looked thinner, tired. He tried to talk to me, to apologize again. I know I hurt you, Sarah, he said, his voice sincere, and I'm truly sorry. I hope one day you can forgive me. I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger or pain. I just felt indifference. I'm okay, Mark, I said. I've moved on. I hope you can too. He nodded, his eyes sad. I hope so too, he said. I walked away, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. A year later, I had my first solo art exhibition. It was a small gallery in my neighborhood, but it was packed with friends, family, and colleagues. I saw Chloe, beaming with pride. I saw my parents, their eyes shining with love. As I looked around the room, I realized something. I was happy. Truly, deeply happy. I had rebuilt my life, stronger and more resilient than before. I raised my glass in a toast. To new beginnings, I said, my voice clear and confident, to being true to ourselves, and to never settling for less than we deserve. A friend nudged me. There's someone I want you to meet, she said, gesturing towards a man standing by the window. He was tall, with kind eyes and a warm smile. I smiled back, intrigued. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for the future after all. But for now, I was content. I was free. And that was enough.